And Julius is the first one in. He was here about 5 minutes early. So I think it's kind of funny. I think it's awesome, actually. That guys are trying to race each other to get in here on the chat. How's it going, Julius? Good to have you in. And yeah, you guys know me as Gundam Morning Works, and we are live on another Wednesday. This is part 12 of the Bandai M61A5 main battle tank, 135th scale. And weathering is weathering, and we're still weathering. So I hate to be redundant, but yo, Angel's in. How you doing, Angel? So I did get a little bit more done since last week, but to be honest, I've been dealing with like a pinched nerve thing kind of going on either in my neck or between my shoulder blades, and so my fingers tips get a little tingly sometimes, and it's annoying. So I'm soldiering on here, trying to keep working on this thing. What's up, George? George is in as well. Good to see you right away tonight. Howdy, all. Yes, how are we doing today? So, was it you were in the bathroom? Angel was in the bathroom, so he didn't get here. He didn't get here first. So, yeah. Well, that's too bad. Maybe next time. So. I did finish most of the turret, but I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to go down to the download here. So, you can kind of see what's going on. So now that the first color is on the turret and the main body of the tank, I still have to do the wheel wells and the tracks and all that stuff. That's going to come probably this week. But once I go down a little bit closer here, the color, I mean, on camera, it looks almost orangey, kind of rusty. It's a little bit darker in person, but I think that dusty brown pigment that I was using on this gray tone kind of gives it an orangish look to it. It's almost rusty looking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it with some dark earth. This is quite a bit darker brown. I was going to use this medium. Oops. Grab that before I make a mess. I was going to use medium earth, but I think it's just too close to the original color. If you look at them side by side, they're pretty similar. One's just a little bit darker, but the dark earth has a little bit more black in it, a little more pigment. So I'm going to go over some of these areas in like the higher concentration areas and add a little more color to this. So you guys are just still laughing about the bathroom trip, huh? Anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with the turret since you guys didn't see that this week. I was pretty much working on the body of the tank, and I also secured the cables, at least at each end. I still have to tack them down, but I think what I'm going to do is I'll wait till after I do some pigment work and get all that set, and then I can figure out where I want to tack those down and make sure they work right, or look okay. But they'll be a little bit dusty. Right now they're black. That was the color that the cable, I wanted it to start with a black, and then I can dust it up and make them a little bit lighter with the pigment and stuff, I guess. So anyway, how's everybody doing? We got 6 people watching so far. So far, so good. I'm going to take the turret off here, and then I'm going to move. Oops, get this aside. I'll move the body. So now we can see the body by itself. I did secure these down. They are glued in place. I just did that tonight before the show, and then I will add some pigment. As I add that other layer of dust and dirt on here, those will get dusted up in the process of that, and then we can move to the underside. So, hey, what's up, Nick? Nick is in. How's it going, Nick? I saw you on the AmFam chat, so I knew you'd probably be in shortly. Anyway, then, like I said, I got to start on the bottom. There won't be too much accumulation, just mostly a dusting of this. There will be a lot more in the wheel wells here where the rollers will be, the wheels will be, and the tracks. So I'm going to be adding quite a bit of dirt just in there, just accumulation, just piling it on with some fixer, trying to get that, build those layers up, and you're not going to see a lot of that under there. And then, of course, I do have the sides, a little bit of work to do. Just I think I put some pigment on here. I actually did. I was looking. I forgot that I did this. So on these areas where, they're on the sides where there's like these steps and these areas that are exposed. I add a little bit of pigment there. So these are ready to go on as well. That will complete the sides. In the whole process of all this, I actually knocked my hatch off. I had it partially open like so, but I think I'm going to lay it all the way back. I mean, realistically, it would lay all the way back. So when I reattach that, I'm going to do that. And then I've got to do just a little bit of pigment on the barrels. The barrels are a little too clean. They actually have almost a little bit of sheen to them, even though I've put a flat coat over them. But they were just such a smooth surface that it's really hard to get it super flat unless you just mist, very, very lightly mist your clear coat on there and try to get it to create those little microscopic droplets, so to speak. So, but I'll be adding some pigment, and that should take care of that. And I'm going to use just the darker of the two browns. So let me move this aside. Actually, I'm just going to take that off. And I kind of like this because it gives me a little bit of a pedestal, raises it up a little bit closer to me. A little bit easier to do this stuff. George says, hey, Nick, probably need to get your parents' permission to join us. Really? Rest of you old people, huh? Really, Nick? Aren't you pretty old too, buddy? I mean, I know you're still raising kids, but, so is George. So, and he's old. I mean, maybe he just got a late start. I don't know. I didn't. I got a really early start. Probably too early, to be quite honest, if I'm being honest. All right, so let me get my stuff out of the way here. Okay, and then we're just going to start. Same thing, AK Pigment Fixer, clear enamel fluid. What I'm going to do first is I will dust this just with the brush and no fixer, and then go back over it and apply a little bit of fixer in those areas that I want to make sure they really, really stick. And it also helps to, you can use it first and kind of use the pigment later and then really clump up and make those areas a little bit more saturated. So 2 brushes. This is my dry pigment brush. I try not to get any of the fixer on here, but occasionally it does, but only a tiny bit if I've got some fixer that's on the model already, and then I'm putting some more pigment on. That's the only time maybe I get the tips of these bristles wet, but you can actually see little puffs of dust coming off because it's still pretty dry clean. But this is my fixer brush. It's just an oval round. I don't even know, it's all the paint stripped off of it, off the handle. So I don't even know what kind of brush this is, but it works well. It's a cheapy brush, and it's kind of rather stiff, so you can control where you want the pigment to go. Giovanni's in. Giovanni says, hello, everyone. I'm late to the party. Not that late. Late is like showing up at 7:20 when I'm getting ready to close up shop at 7:30. So I'm going to keep going as long as I can. I shouldn't have a problem getting through the show, but like I said earlier at the beginning, I am dealing with this damn nerve thing, and my fingertips are, you get kind of tingly at times, and it's a pain in the butt. And trying to work that way, especially working over my head, it's not fun. So I considered postponing this episode tonight just because of that, but I'm actually feeling pretty good right now. So I'm going to soldier on. So here we go. We're going to use dark earth. Okay, now I know I showed them in the jar here, but I'm going to take the lid off so you can kind of see the difference in the color here. This was the original color, and this is the dark earth. So you see there's quite a bit darker. So I shouldn't need too much of the dark earth just to kind of enhance some of those more deeper areas. But I also want to take some of this orange kind of tint to it. I want to tone that down a little bit because it does, especially on camera, it looks like a lot of rust, and it's not rust. I want it to look like dirt. And after the fixer dried, it just kind of like, okay, it kind of looks rusty. And I don't want it to, I mean, there will be some of that, obviously, but I don't want it to be primarily look like it's just a rust bucket. I want it to look dirty, not rusty. So same rules apply with this. It's very, very intense powder. You don't need much to go a long way. So just barely dab the tip there just to grab some of that pigment, and then go ahead and apply it. Now, the fixer will will help this stick quite a bit better. But because I've already done some of that, the pigment that's there will hold on to some of this color. But I think it might be necessary to apply a little bit of that fixer later, just to that way I can move it around and even further control what I'm doing. You can already see a difference between this side and this side just by adding a little bit of pigment right here. And I'm going to do the other side so you can see the difference. Just touching in this corner and then working my way out. And all that's going to do is just further kind of darken this area where there would be an accumulation of dirt and dust and things just from normal wear and tear. So quite a bit different already. Just tiny little bit makes all the difference. And I still have soot here. That I did use soot on these two vents. I kind of ran that streaking back this way, so it looks like, you know, whatever soot is coming out of these ports here is accumulated on the body. Giovanni, let's see, what's Giovanni saying here? I'm going to put this on screen. Let's see. Oh, I missed a few here. Like I said, Gio, old people. Giovanni says, I was going to start work on Millennium Falcon, but when I opened the box, I forgot that I needed to sand it. So started work on the RG Shin Matsunaga. Nice. Oh, they made a Matsunaga, huh? Or in the RG line. I didn't know they did that. I have the Matsunaga Zaku and the Johnny Ridden in master grade, but I'm still yet to build those. George has a question. The question is, what will you do for diorama or vignette? We have talked about this off and on throughout the process. I may still bring out the Rambarel set and use the 1/35 scale Zaku head inside of that to make some kind of a diorama or some kind of a vignette. I don't think I'll be making it a full diorama, which, you know, if you're familiar with IPMS rules, diorama would be 2 or more models on a single project. So more than likely, it would be more like a vignette. But I may do that still. I'm still just trying to get this thing done to the point where I'm satisfied with the weathering, and then I'll see. I do have a commission waiting in the wings, so we'll see if I go how much deeper I go with this project. Hope that answers your question. So I think I may need a little bit of fixer here, just because this is going to get kind of dusty. But I think you can see the difference already just around the I guess it would be the commander's hatch and seat. Just adding a little bit of that darker brown to kind of take away some of that orangey kind of looking lighter dirt. And when you use fixture on this, it's because it's a liquid, it does almost act like oils do with enamel thinner. You can kind of spread it around. You can take some off. If you get too much dirt on there, you can move it around and remove it with the brush. In fact, that's why you see this towel I have here. This is all from my fixer brush, and then if whatever pigment's left in the brush basically comes off onto the towel there. And then if you need to add more, you just go back and reapply it. But yeah, I think this is going to need a little bit of fixer just to control this a little better. So I'm going to switch to the other brush. Oops. Seal stayed on the bottle. Oh, darn it. Get out of there. Oh, come on, really? Look at that little seal that's in the top of the lid. It keeps it's stuck to the bottles. Every time I try to put it back in the cap, it wants to flip over. The wrong way. There we go. All right, get out of here. All right, just a tiny bit of fixer here. And this almost moves around like Pentaline accent color. You put a little bit down, you see it darkens up really quite a bit, and it will lighten up a bit once it dries. But just by dabbing this on here, you can see the difference in color. So I got a little bit of a heavier area here that I'm going to take some of this off. That's why I grabbed the fixture. So as I move this around, I can kind of remove some of that pigment. And then just take it off on the towel. So now it's a little more controlled. A little bit easier to control. All right, now that I got enough of the fixer down, I can go ahead and start moving this around a little bit. I've got to deal with the glare too. I've got my lights overhead are kind of make, this is shining quite a bit, so it's a little bit harder to see, but I like this new color though, because it kind of blends with the other, but also gives it even more dirty, more dirty effect. All the while kind of blending that and fading away from those crevices and those areas of where that accumulation is. So if you see me pull the brush away, what I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of that fixer out of the brush, and then when I go back to the model, the brush is a little bit drier, so it, if I need to remove any of that pigment, it's going to pull that away each time. So that's how, you apply some, and then you take it away until you get the desired effect that you like. So far, I like the way that looks. It's quite a bit more grimy, not so rusty looking. And George says 2 different pigments can create quite a bit of tonal variety. Yes, that is true. That's kind of what I was trying to show here with what we started with and what it looks like now. You see how it's just that much more kind of grimy. I could, in fact, even work my way up the side of this a little bit too, just to give a little bit more grime at the bottom. And of course, that's just while using that fixer to kind of move it around a little bit. And then once I've got a little bit of accumulation there, I can wet the brush a little more and blend it out. That looks good. All right, I'm going to switch back to the dry pigment. I'm just going to go inside here, right where the M60 ring is. I'm going to put a little bit of this darker in there, and then we'll go back and use the fixer brush and pull that out. I'm really satisfied too with this AIM product stuff that I bought. You know, it was quite a bit cheaper than some of the other name brand type pigments like the AK stuff, but still very, 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 very good product. And I can't remember where I got the first little tube of this stuff, but I found a seller on eBay a couple of years ago selling another set of these pigments that was like a set of 4 of other colors that I didn't have, and I couldn't resist. I had to grab them up before they disappeared because they really are nice and they go a long way. All right, so I'm just going to do a little bit of fading work here, just kind of blending this edge in, and then I'll go to the barrels. Make sure if I get any, I don't want to make sure I take it off. Okay. Yeah, instantly it looks way better. It still looks pretty dark on camera just because, I mean, it will lighten up. It is slightly darker too because it's still wet. It takes a while for that fixer to fully dry, but I'm going to go over the basket too, because I put quite a bit of dirt down in there too, but again, it still looks kind of rusty looking, so I am going to go back over that with some pigment just to darken it up. So let me do that first, and then I'll go to the barrels. Because the barrels have nothing on them except clear coat, really, and a little bit of some pastels from the Tamiya weathering pastels. And I'm only going around the edges, just where the supports are underneath the basket. These chain link looking baskets. I'm just kind of dusting up the supports. Not a lot will stick to the actual grill, so I'm just going where you see these struts go side to side and back, all the way to the back. Just adding a little bit of color. There's a lot would collect in these areas, especially, you know, if the stowage area is full. I haven't decided if I'm going to try to use the stowage area with some of that extra stowage I had from the Abrams. Problem is this basket is so narrow and the walls are pretty high, so some of the stuff I have won't really fit down in there. So I'm going to see if I can get some of it to work. We'll see. Okay. Go back to the fixer again. This is a lot of what we did last week. It's pretty much just a repeat, but just showing the difference between using just one color or two. To blend it even more, which I think works very well together. All right. Looks good. Okay. Now I'm going to go to these barrels here. I'm going to dust these off. Now keep in mind, this powder will get everywhere, and trust me, you'll get it. You'll have it all over you by the time it gets on your workbench. You'll have to periodically go through with a damp cloth and wipe everything down because this stuff is everywhere. And you can kind of see, like this piece of foam. This is all pigment. That's from various projects that I've done. It just does get everywhere, no matter how careful you try to be. So just keep that in mind. It will get on you. It'll get on your clothes. And just try to, remember, like once a week or something like that, or after you do a section, just try to go back and wipe it down with a damp cloth. And you're kind of stippling it with the tip of the brush, and that's what makes it really kind of stick. You can push around the actual powder, but once you start getting that transfer, you start transferring the color, is where it makes, what starts to stick. The rest of it's just going to kind of fall aside. So we'll go back with the fixer brush, and then I'll blend all this together. Blend it. It'll look a lot nicer. Right now I'm just trying to get some pigment on there in areas. Not going to be too terrible, too much, because of course the gun barrels they're going to, every time this thing fires, it's going to shake any dust off, pretty much. So there's going to be a little bit of dirt there, but not a whole hell of a lot. I can already see it on the bench too. It's just everything that's falling off the sides of these it's kind of going everywhere. But that's all right. A little bit of waste. Try to do your best to keep it all clean, but it's gonna get dirty. That's all there is to it. Yeah, don't worry. I'm gonna go back and blend all this out, but just trying to get a little bit of color on her first, and then we'll. I thought I glued those on, but maybe I didn't. I have to check. Looked like one of those barrel tips was kind of sticking off a little bit, like it wasn't fully pressed on. All right. So because this is already a little bit damp, I'm just going to go over here and try to wipe up some of that pigment. All right. Now let's switch to the fixer brush and blend all this out. I'm going to have to get some more of this. I have 2 bottles of the fixer, but one of them this one's almost empty. So I am going to have to eventually replenish the supply, but it all goes quite a long way. Oh shoot, I didn't even put any on that spot. I got to do this real quick. Just noticed, like right here, I didn't put any down. I almost put fixer down. There we go. Let's see. Nick says, how many hours do you think you have put into this kit? Oh gosh, it's hard to say, really. I get asked that a lot, and I don't time myself because I try to work on it in my spare time, and so it's hard to. I don't think about it all the time, but to physically go, okay, when did I start working on it? I mean, this is part 12, so we've done at least, it'll be 12 hour-and-a-half shows with this, and then all the time in between. So 20 hours, 30 hours, maybe more, probably more. Because if this is part 12, and that's an hour and a half each, so that's at least, what, 18 hours right there. So I'm just kind of balancing out these dusty areas up here. This is almost working like a kind of like a pre-shade almost. I wanted to take the sheen away from what was on the barrels, after the clear coat, because it's so smooth. It's still left, especially the guy notes. It goes on so smooth that even the flat coat is almost like a satin finish, really, at the end of the day, unless you layer the crap out of it and then that looks pretty good though. Okay. So I'm not sure much more. I might come back. I'll revisit this and see if I need to add more color to this. But in the meantime, I'm going to switch over back to the body here. I'll just place the turret down on my laptop out of the way. And so the first thing I'm going to try to do is kind of dirty up these toe cables. Because they look very, in person they're a little bit lighter, but they look pretty dark on here. So I wanted to hold a little bit of dust and dirt. And I could even go back over and put a little fixer on these. In fact, I may do that first, just to let it soak in. That way, whatever powder I do put on here will stick to just the cables. Whatever goes off, the rest, I can actually blow that off. I don't know if you saw me do that. But as long as you don't rub it in with the brush, you can take those, if there is any dry powder just sitting there, and just blow it off before you get any fixture on the model, because once the fixture's down, it's going to stick. So right now I just put a little bit of that fixer into this cable, and now I'm going to, because this is just a piece of string that came with kit, so now I'm just going to add a tiny bit of dirt to this. Whatever falls off, I just blow it off. And with a little bit of this fixer in that cable, it also makes it a little bit heavier, and it kind of sits down where I want it to, and then it's a little heavier. So then I can realistically kind of tack these in place. All right. Giovanni says, in my opinion, the duration of a project depends on your skill level. As your skills improve, let me throw this on screen so everybody can see. As your skills improve, the longer the project takes because you're able to do more with kit. Well, that is very true. I would say the same. I would totally agree with that, because I used to be able to turn out a kit, like once a month or something like that when I was just doing master grade Gundam kits or something. And then you start trying different techniques, and whether it be weathering or scribing or electronics, adding LEDs and stuff like that. So yeah, the more complex you make it, the longer it takes. And I tend to do that all the time. Take something that was supposed to be simple, straight build and complicate it. Complicate it. There's nothing wrong with that either. There's nothing wrong with just doing straight build too, but that was weird. It was like a piece of gold in here almost. It's like this powder, however they made it, there was like a really light piece, and it almost looked like a rock. And when I touched it with the brush, it just kind of disappeared, but left a gold streak on the model, which is fine. I'm just going to take this off. Just removing it with the fixer brush just to get rid of that. Okay. Now that I've dusted up those cables, I'm going to hit them again with a little bit of more of the fixer, and that will secure that dust that's in there and leave it. So yeah, as you develop your skills too, like Giovanni said, you tend to try new things and more things, and then I wouldn't, years ago I would have never weathered a kit like this. I didn't, and some of the stuff, of course, is your availability to obtain some of the products that you need to do it, but it's also practicing, watching other people do it, watching videos. We've all, done that, or had to watch YouTube or something just to see how does this stuff get applied, how does it work. I think I'm just going to throw a name out there because I think even George would agree that, like, John Bias is like he's just crazy good at weathering, making things look just dirty, grimy, all things that. But he was specifically good with armor, and I think he also did some Warhammer stuff at one point. In fact, he was selling some. He would build something and then go and sell it later on, particularly when he was going back to YouTube. He was advertising some of the old kits that he built for sale. Okay, so I'm just doing the same thing I've been doing here. I'm taking a little bit of pigment and then blend it out with, putting fixer on the brush and just toning it down by pulling some of it back off of the kit with the fixer. The fixer's in the brush. That's why this brush works so well for it. I think George had a question last week about why I thought maybe I'd use a smaller brush, but because this has the ability to not only apply it but also wick it back out if I get too much. That's why I have the little towel here. I just dry the brush enough, and then whatever fixer is on the kit will actually get pulled back off with the brush, so I can control the saturation of it and also blend it at the same time. So John Bias has over 300 models behind him. Yeah, he's pretty expert at finish and weathering. That is true. If you have an opportunity, I think he's done uploading all of his old videos to YouTube now, so you can go check him out. But yeah, he's got some crazy good armor, some Warhammer stuff. Let's see where we're at here. Real quick, 1 second. Ooh. Okay. I was just checking the hockey scores, actually. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing I did on the turret section. I'm going to go into some of these areas, like down in these corners, where I have a lot of that accumulation of dirt, and then we'll go back, put some fixer in there, and move it around and tone those corners down a little bit. You might be able to hear the brush actually. I'm kind of stippling. I'm just dabbing the tip of the brush down, and that's what's going to take that powder and kind of rub it into that flat finish. This stuff will not apply well to a gloss finish. You always want to make sure that when you're doing this step that everything has been flat coated, because on a microscopic level, flat coat has a bit of a texture, and that will help hold on to this pigment in one place. You can still move it around a little bit, but as you stipple the brush, it will kind of rub that color into the surface, and then when you use the fixer, that's when you really get to see what the final finish is going to look like. Yeah, John Bias is a pretty amazing builder. Oops, got a little bit of fixer down there. That was almost immediate, so okay. Put a little bit back here as well. Just kind of working around these cables. All right, now I'm going to stop and go back to the fixer brush before I get too carried away. All I'm doing first is just kind of just dabbing the fixer on there and letting it flow. It will wick around corners. It will just like very similar to what like a thin panel line color will, but it's clear. You know, it's only going to pick up and hold on to whatever pigment you already have down there. It's already starting to look a lot better than it did just with the one color. I'm glad I went with the darker of the two. I wasn't sure if I should use the medium or not, but I'm really satisfied with the way this color looks by itself, you know, with the blending in with that other color underneath. There we go. All right. Now we've got the first layer of that fixer down. Actually, we need a little more right here. I can start moving it around, blending it into those corners again. George says one more shout out for John. He's also one of the nicest, kindest, and most yeah. I was going to say the same thing. And helpful modelers out there. I was going to say the same thing about him. He generally just does this for the love of the hobby. Just doesn't. He's not out to try to make a buck or anything like that. He just wants to spread the love and the knowledge, for the hobby and his techniques and all that. I'm dealing with glare here, so I'm going to tilt this just so I can kind of see what I'm doing. There we go. Move this over. So, yeah, I just got, when you put this fixture down, especially because of my overhead lights, it's really bright. And so I was struggling to see where the pigment was actually settling in and the saturation of it. So I had to angle it a bit so I could see what I'm doing. That's better. All right. Let's go back to this side. Almost knocked over my bottle. That was close. Take your time, there's no need to rush. This stuff, the drying time isn't such that you really have to rush. You can apply it and come back and move it around and then make adjustments later on. I think, in fact, you can almost reactivate it. There was a couple of spots that seemed like that I had done this week, but just by putting some more fixture down, it kind of reactivated that area and allowed me to move a little bit of pigment around. Gosh darn it. And sometimes it's necessary it's got to be a little bit wetter just so you can move it around more and control where get the effect you want, the desired effect. Hey, Phil Artiste City, how you doing, buddy? Shout out from New York City, everyone. Thanks for streaming, Mike. Thank you for joining. So you're coming in from New York, huh? You're one of the East Coasters as well. So it's pretty late for you, but thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you coming in. Good to have you again. I think you were here last week, I believe, right? Try to remember everybody. And at the end of the show, I always like try to go through the list and give everybody a shout that took the time to put their name or say something in the chat. And at least say hello. It doesn't matter, what you say after that. Just say hello, whatever. Nice to see you. So we're still doing. Oh shoot! What happened to my color? Oh, come on, camera. It's funny how this camera has keywords, and if I say something that the camera thinks is telling it to go to sleep, it'll do that from time to time. I happen to look up. I don't know how long it was, probably out for just a couple seconds, but I'll happen to look up and all of a sudden I see my background image on there and it's like, wait a minute, where'd the camera feed go? Let's just turn it back on so everybody can see. Sorry about that. All right, so we got pretty much the back here. I'm going to add a little bit more in some of these little crevices here just to kind of darken this up a little bit, but not too much on this back panel. A lot of this is covered up by the turret, so I mean, there still would be some dirt accumulation in there, but maybe not as much as surfaces that are directly exposed to the elements. So I'm just going to go around the edges and then I'll make adjustments with the fixer. All right, back to the fixer brush. We'll blend all this in. All right, give that just half a second. I'll go back. The brush is getting a little too saturated. I got to get some of that pigment out of it. There we go. Again, I'm dealing with glare, so I've got to kind of change my angle approach here. My brush is getting, even though this is the fixer brush, it's still getting saturated with pigment, so I've got to go back periodically and clean it out on the towel here. I may have to actually scrub the whole brush just to get it completely clean and start over, because as it gets too saturated, it makes it even harder to remove some of the excess that you don't want. All it's doing is just spreading around mud. There we go. That's looking better now. So what's everybody working on? If you are sitting back watching me or listening, building whatever you're doing in the background, let me know what you're doing. All right, I'm going to go over this with a Q-tip just to try to take off, using this to wick away some of that fixer, but also take off a little bit of the pigment from the higher areas. Now I can go back with the, yeah, I'm just going to clean this brush. So this is straight up lacquer thinner. I'm just going to run it through there real quick. This will get all of the extra, any extra pigment or, okay, or the fixture fluid out of it. Now I should be able to go back in. You can almost see the color difference too. It's already a lighter looking brush because there's not any pigment left in it. It just starts to get oversaturated and it starts to become harder and harder to kind of control where. So I want to be able to use the brush to take away any excess pigment and lighten some of those areas and just keep it in the crevices. But when the brush gets fully saturated, it doesn't want to pull away any material. It just keeps adding more no matter how hard you try. So sometimes it's necessary just to clean the brush out, especially if you're doing an extended period of, adding this kind of pigment and stuff. It's just going to take a little bit of that off and start fresh. There we go. That's the nice part about this too, is that there's a decent amount of working time. This stuff doesn't dry instantly. In fact, it takes quite a long time to fully dry, but it will dry flat. But it allows you to go back and you can make adjustments as needed, either adding pigment or taking it away, moving it around until you get what you want, the results you want. All right, that looks way better. Okay, make sure those are kind of tucked in where they are. Now I'm going to move forward a little bit and start on the front. Julie's had a question. Let's see. Old school. Oh gosh, what did I miss? Scribing a Squirtle. Nice. That's what Nick's working on. George is masking Misa Hayase. That's his Macross figure, which I think is what, 1/12 scale or one. Yeah, it's not 1/6, probably 1/12, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And Julia says, old school. Hey, I'm doing laundry, also customizing 2 MG GM heads for the MG GM 2.0. Nice. Like minds or households. Yeah. Everybody's doing a little bit of housework, huh? Such is life. All right. So, oops, I got a little bit of pigment came across onto this panel. I want to make sure that is blended out. Looks good. All right. Okay, let's move forward on to the front here. And then we'll see where we're looking. First, 1/12, yeah. Now, is that an old EMI, or I can't remember what kit? I know it's not the new Max Factory stuff. George, speaking of his Misa Hayase kit that he's doing. It's just a figure kit, but I think it's old, like old EMI or one of those other brands that held the Macross license years ago. So now we're moving forward to the front here, in front of the driver's compartment, and just putting quite a bit of collection of dirt around where these cables, because there's a little pocket here. There's going to be quite a bit of dirt would accumulate in this area. EMI, 1982, yeah. Wow. That's definitely old school. Fitting the name, right, George? Mr. Old School. So anybody else have other than George, I don't know if anybody else have a YouTube channel or anything? We could give a little shout out, you guys. If you got it, put it in the chat. Make sure, and I'll put it on screen so everybody can see. Yes, sir. Giovanni says he's doing an MG, the SD Mazinger. No pieces were lost. Sword didn't come out the way I wanted, but I'm happy with it. Did wings in a candy color red. Very cool. Use gold as the base. Oh, nice. So that's going to be a nice, not a candy apple looking red, but a very, almost maybe a burgundy with the gold as a base coat. That's cool. Very nice. All right, so we're almost put a little bit more in some of these areas here. If we get done with the top, we may not be able to keep, have any time after this, but I can start working on the wheel wells at this point. I'm not going to worry about doing the first color. I think with the wheel wells and where the tracks are going to be and everything, I think I'll go straight to the dark earth. And that should be fine with that. There's not too much on top of these. There's only a few areas where the fenders have any areas that would be some dust, but not as much. There's not a lot of pockets where dirt would settle and accumulate. So that will be fairly quick for these sections here. Serendipity, perhaps. Giovanni. Whoa, that was a lot. Just gonna blow it off. If you get too much in one area, don't worry. Don't try to brush it off. Just blow it off, because once you start using the brush, it will start rubbing it into that surface. So if you just blow it off, then it'll just go away without making too much of a mess. Julia says, my wife and daughter are giving me a bad time because I'm letting my hair grow out for the first time in 32 years. My hair is very ugly stage right now. Is it still business in the front, party in the rear? Or is it just party all over? Angel would know what I'm talking about. It's called a mullet. I used to have one. I can't say much. I used to have one back in the younger days when I was still working at the Renaissance Fair. I had a mullet. That was until I found out what it was called. And I said, all right, it's coming off. Couldn't do it anymore. All right, I got a good dusting of pigment on this. I'm going to go down and put some fixer on it. Start spreading it around here. Oh, what's up, Batsico? Hey, buddy. Let's see what's going on with Twitch. Just came upon your, and I would love to collaborate. You on this game? What game? See, this is just Twitch trolling me. Here we go. What's this? You're cool. Add me on Discord. No. How about no? I'm not here to collaborate with anybody on a video game. I'm here about scale model building, guys. Come on now. You know better. But Twitch is always like that. You always find some interesting characters on Twitch. And they always want interesting stuff. Stuff that is sometimes inappropriate. So, sorry, no. Kind of party all over, huh? Sticks up on the top. Sticks out on the sides. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's still not long enough to lay down. Huh? It's just a mess. It'll get there. It's all good. Just went a little heavy here. See, a little goes a long way with this pigment. If you get too heavy, then it starts to become harder to remove because it's just oversaturated. So give me a sec here. I'm going to go back and slowly blend these areas away. Sometimes I think it's just bots. Right, Batsico from Twitch. Probably not even a human being. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. I have no problem with that. But whenever I see those pop into the chat, it's like, yeah, what do you want? Somebody wants something. Wants me to model their jewelry line. Some of the weirdest things I get requested from people on Twitch. It's just like nothing to do with scale modeling. It's just trolling. Not interested, guys. So we'll see if they even respond. But I would suspect they're not even watching. Just throw out a message and then move on to the next guy, trying to get something. I mean, Twitch is primarily like gamers. I know it's starting to change quite a bit, but it used to be just gamers and stuff like that all the time. Gamers doing the live streams, but it's very few of us artists that are slowly making a footprint on there, but still get some weird requests. I don't seem to get any of those from any other platform. It's always Twitch. I don't know why. All right, I'm just dabbing some of this pigment down again, just so I can go back and move it around. Let's see. George says, Mike, do you get any benefit from cross-platform with Twitch? Not really. It was just for the sake of filling a hole I have, because of what I pay for with StreamYard. I have the option to stream to 3 different locations at the same time. And because Instagram is kind of stupid when it comes to broadcasting on a computer, I just picked Twitch for the lack of having another streaming location other than YouTube and Facebook. Although Facebook did the other day try to tell me that my moderation or my monetization tools were limited because I was supposedly had some content that didn't abide by their monetization rules or whatever, which I thought was ridiculous. So they give you the option to contest it, and I did. And of course, within a day, I got it reinstated. So it was just like, obviously, it was nothing. Sometimes that stuff just comes up out of nowhere, and it's just, I wonder if it's an algorithm, because it's really not. That's why they give you the option to contest it, because it's like, sometimes we get it wrong. So go ahead, and if you want us to look into it further, we'll do that. So I did. And like I said, within a day, everything gets reinstated. So it's like, obviously, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I don't know. It doesn't even specifically tell you what the violation was or whatever. It just says he didn't follow these guidelines. Well, the guidelines encompass a lot of different things, from being like using the use of profanity to, self-harm and all these other things that you're not supposed to do, which I don't do. So that's why I'm just like, why would this pop up saying that I was in violation when I don't do any of that stuff? I mean, if anything, the occasional F-bomb will come out, and I get that part, but that's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. I mean, just... So, like I said, all I did was click the button that said, yeah, go ahead and review it again, and I did, and now I'm back in, so whatever. It's not like I'm making a killing doing this anyway right now. I'm having more success on the YouTube portion than anything else, because now that Facebook has limited their video storage capabilities, so now all my videos that I do post to Facebook get deleted after 30 days anyway, unless I download them. But what does that do for me? All it does is leave them, on my computer. It doesn't allow anybody else to see them. So, like I said, I tell everybody all the time, if you guys want to see something you might have missed, go to the YouTube channel, because Facebook's going to delete it after 30 days anyway. Giovanni says, you start collaborating on video games, you'll end up on OnlyFans too. doing yeah. No, I don't need to do that. That's why I said not interested. Phil Art, I want to say it's one word, but Phil Artiste, new illustration, Italy tornado for the heck of it. Yeah. Oh, this is what you're building? Is that what you're doing? L2 off tomorrow for your birthday. Oh, very good. Happy birthday. Cool to hear. And George says, Giovanni has a good point. Can't you drop Twitch and classify to OnlyFans? Probably, but I don't need to, nor do I really give a crap, to be honest, George. Unless somebody's, has a foot fetish for old men. But that's it. I'm probably going to get dinged for even talking about it. Thanks, George. Thanks a lot. Thanks for putting that one out there. Facebook, and what's funny too is that now that I mention it, it's like even the message that said that there was some, I'm not following some guideline, some magical guideline. It says our technology discovered that you were doing this. So it's not even monitored by a person. It's all AI. And that's why I immediately just said, fine, contest it, because it's like, if somebody really, it's like the last time when I had, when I was talking about a hockey game, and I used a word, to unalive a team. I'm saying unalive, which you know what I mean, because you can't say the word, but I used that word on the live stream, and then I got, immediately dinged for it. It was just like, they were saying I was in, violation of, my page was unsafe for people. And I was like, I don't condone any of that. What are you talking about? It's just like, it's just an algorithm listening or looking for certain words and certain phrases throughout the whatever you're talking about. And I was like, come on, guys. If somebody was actually watching it, a physical person was actually watching it, they would know right away that there's no possibility of confusion. But they see one word, one algorithm pulls out a keyword, and then it's like, oh, you're unsafe for younger viewers, or whatever the case may be. It's just dumb. Oh, here's another one. See Twitch again. I don't know if you guys can see these, but I'm going to put it on screen so you can see. Here's another Twitch one. Cheap viewers on streamboo.com. Remove the space. Blah, blah, blah. See, it's just spam. Just spam. Old man foot fetish. Yeah. Again, organize. What is this? Organize Fan blah blah whatever. Yeah, on Twitch. Yeah, have a nice day. Not interested. Come on, come on. Seems like once you get one, they just start flooding in. At first, it can be a little confusing when you're doing this kind of thing. You know, you're doing these live streams. It's like, where is this stuff coming from? You're trying to figure it out. Then you realize through experience and through doing this for over a year now, it's like, oh yeah, you know what's spam and what's not. It's just like I get, occasionally I'll get it seems not a complaint, but there'll be some kind of somebody flag, copyright infringement and da da da, and it's just random, and it's not, there's no what's the word I'm looking for? It's just like, it's almost like it's just a random, it's just random. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's just a random thing that pops up through a keyword or something. Because I even changed my intro music just because when I had that video made, the friend of mine that made it didn't realize he was using copyrighted music, and I kept seeing copyright on my videos on YouTube. I kept seeing the YouTube side. I kept seeing it say, copyright after every broadcast. And so I went in and looked a little deeper, and it said something about the music. It's like, oh, well, that's easy. So I went back on this other video editing thing, and I just muted the original audio, and I put my own audio on there, something that was free, and stopped seeing that copyright label. And that was probably limiting any kind of, not especially for YouTube, because I don't even have enough subscribers yet. That's why I want to say, tell your friends. Let's everybody support the YouTube channel, because if and when we do start getting any kind of monetization out of the channel, that would be the one to go to, because I think the Facebook side and good old Zuckerberg and all that stuff is just making it more and more difficult to do anything on that platform. But that's where my original build page is. So, I'm obviously I'm going to continue uploading photos, and there's no restrictions for photos. It's just the video storage stuff is what they limited. Anyway. So we're still just moving this dirt around here, around this less orange, less rusty, and more dirty. Oops, that was a mistake. Like that dirty brush with that pigment and just went right across that front area. There we go. It'd probably be better to do on a towel you don't mind ruining, but this is just a paper towel, and it will soak through and just make like a kind of not a mess on your bench, on the workbench, but it will leave, like if I lift this up, it's all kind of, you can't even see it really. It's all kind of damp under there from all the fixture that's been soaking through it. Anyway, I don't have to broadcast to Twitch. I mean, I have a few followers on there, but very few. It's really just like I answered earlier. I think just for the sake of filling a spot that was available, might as well. If I'm going to broadcast to 3, I'm paying for it. I might as well throw the third one out there just to have a little extra page promotion. Really, that's the only reason I do it, is just to promote the build page. But I guess I should probably put a little bit in here, even though I'm not sure if this hatch is going to be open or not. So if it is, then this will be mostly covered up, but if it's closed, then we'll see this. So I'm going to put some pigment in here. Thanks, old school. Young 55th, huh? Well, that's you're as old as I am. I'm 55. I'll be 56 in November. So welcome to the old club. 55. I remember last year. It was only just last year. Angel's still in the room. I think he's probably the oldest. He would be the elder. Over 60. George isn't even there yet, so. All right, I really like the way that's looking. Nice and grimy. You see it's still pretty shiny though. That will dry. Like the back here, this is almost completely dry. It still has a little bit of a sheen to it, but it will, once it's fully dried, it'll be nice and dark, or flat, I mean. I don't think it's going to change much as far as what it looks like, but I think it's starting to come together and really look nice. Ooh. I gotta go back and put some fixer on there. I was just trying to even it out, but I caught a pocket of some of that pigment and it just started to really there we go. More dirty and grimy, the better. All right, so we're just about done for the evening, folks. So let's see, we'll get this turret back on here and kind of give an overall look. So I may have to go back and add a little bit more in these areas here. Not sure yet. There's a ridge here, and that's why I kind of made that accumulation there, but I might have to blend that out a little bit and make it slightly lighter. It does look quite a bit dark. It is darker on camera, to be honest, but let's see. Let's get this lined up. Where is it? Right there. Come on, there we go. It's really getting grimy. I might have gone overboard. I don't know. That's not bad. It just, the camera really highlights colors and it blends a lot more together, a lot better in person. I think right now it just looks like very stark differences. So now I think what we'll do next week is we're ready to start going into the underside. I'm not going to do too much on the very bottom because obviously that's not going to be seen. I will do a little bit of discoloration. I did do some streaking there, so you can see a little bit of chipping, a little bit of streaking there, but mostly it'll be just for this front section and then in the tracks, those areas where the tracks are going to be. Damn, we're a bunch of old bastards. 47 next month, huh, Giovanni? Well, you're getting there. You're in the 40-plus club. Young, definitely young. 55, yeah. Not that young. I don't feel it. I feel older just because the type of work I do and the type of work I've been doing for the last 33 years. Yeah, but we are a bunch of old people. Let's see. Happy early birthday, Giovanni. So, you got your next month, huh? Nice. All right. So let me go down the list here. Since we're getting close to closing time, let's go back to this view so that you can see the bench. Yeah, looking pretty dirty. Looking real dirty. Real dirty. But that's all right. It's a tank, man. It's supposed to be dirty. Let's start over. So first one in tonight was Julius. Of course, he was about 5 minutes early. Angel popped in right after that at about 6:01. Then we had George. Actually, George both and Angel were up with a 6:01. Almost beat it. And then let's see, we had Julius after that, and then Nick. Moving on down, Giovanni came in at about 8 after, about 10 minutes after the hour. No big deals there. That's not late. He said he was late, but he's not late. And let's see, and we go down. That was about it until we started getting hit by the Twitch bots. Julius, of course, in case I didn't mention you earlier as well. And then Phil Artiste Studio, thank you for joining in at 7 o'clock. Appreciate you. And yes, happy birthday. We had another Twitch. Pretty much that was it. That was pretty much everybody that was in the chat for the entire show. George says, good work, Mike. Julie says, looks good, Mike. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate your input. It does make a difference. At least I know, I'm not losing the ability to keep building models here. Not yet. I'm just getting rid of some of that. I mean, look at that. That's all pigment that didn't make it on the model. Like I said, remember I talked about you're going to have to periodically go through and wipe down the surface because you can't see it. You're just going to find it on your models, find it on your hands, everything. So it's a good idea to go back and wipe that down. So thank you, everybody. Anyway, let me go back up here to my mug. Let's see that old face. Yeah, the old guy. Anyway, thanks again, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please be good humans. And if I missed you in the chat, I apologize. But I think I got everybody there that was in tonight. Quite a few viewers. It seems like we're getting more and more each week, and that's awesome because I used to get an average of maybe about 10 people or so at the most watching at any given time. But we've got 16 in right now, which is awesome. You can't thank you guys enough. So with that, we will. Okay, later, Nick. Nick says later, fellas. Till next week. That is true. I don't think there's any reason why I won't be here next week. Giovanni says good night. And anyway, yeah, with that, good night, everybody. And we will see you next time. Like I said, be good humans. We'll catch you next time on the flip.